had an abortion. Portia could have lost the baby. Portia could have had a miscarriage. But Portia delivered a healthy baby. And if you ain't got nothing to shout about, you ought to open your mouth and shout that the baby is healthy and the baby going somewhere. And you ought to give God praise if you ain't jealous and tell God, thank you. Thank you. See, look, when you learn how to praise God for somebody else, God will expedite your blessing. When you learn how to celebrate somebody else, God will put the quickness on your miracle. When you learn how to, I got no help here, grab somebody, tell them, don't hate, congratulate. But this is what the Lord said to Paul. He says, my grace is sufficient. See, y'all still ain't got it yet. Y'all still ain't got it. See, if you got it, somebody should have started running just off of the word. That's what God says. Look at somebody and say, God told me to tell you that his grace is sufficient. Watch this. He says, for my strength, listen to God, my strength is made perfect in weakness. Anybody weak in here? I say, anybody weak in here? See, when you're down to your nothing, God is up to something. Look at somebody, tell them, God is up to something. God is up to something. God is up to something. Then he said, watch this. Shh, watch this. He said, most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my weakness or my infirmities. Watch this. That the power of Christ may rest up on me. Got it? Therefore, hear me, I take pleasure in my weakness. I take pleasure in infirmities. I take pleasure in reproaches. I take pleasure in necessities. I take pleasure in persecution. I take pleasure in distresses for Christ's sake. Watch this. For when I am weak, then I'm strong. Now tell somebody, I want you to tell somebody this subject. Look at them and say, grace, wow, broken. Now give God praise like you know God gonna give you grace in your broken situation, because his grace is sufficient. Open your mouth and say, Lord, I thank you for your grace. Grace. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Tore from the floor. He says, when I am weak, watch this, then I am strong. Let me say that to my back row church. He says, when I am weak, then I am strong. Tell somebody, you don't have to be all of that to be strong. In fact, when you at your worst, God says, I'm at my best. I need you to touch 3 people. I said 3 people. I want you to touch 3 people and tell them, in your mess, God is at his best. So if I was you, I thank God for my mess. I thank God for the messed up stuff. I thank God for the dilemma, the frustration, because God says when I'm weak, then I'm strong. When I'm broke, busted, and disgusted, eating hot dogs with no mustard, and your elbows still rusted, God says then you are strong. But when you think you're high, you ain't nobody. Last week we talked about Paul, when Paul said, for I have learned whatsoever state I am, be content. Paul said, I've learned, watch this, He said, I've learned how to be high, and I learned how to be low. I learned how to be full, and I learned how to be empty, because I can do all things through Christ that strengthened me. Now, he said, listen, I got all of this revelation from God, and I don't want to get big-headed lest I exalt myself above measure. For it was given to me a thorn in my flesh, the messenger of Satan, to break me down. How many of y'all been broke down before? But you had so many tears, you ain't had nothing else to wipe it with. How many been there? How many just took the toilet tissue and the roll was gone before midnight was over because you cried all night long? But when you woke up, God still woke you up and gave you another chance to get it right. And for that, you ought to tell the Lord, thank you. When I am weak, be seated, then I'm strong.